It doesn't go from like one morning I'm this way, next morning I wake up and presto, 5 steps to greatness. No, it ain't that, brother.
The way to answer any question for yourself personally that you don't immediately know the answer to is to ask this question. Does it energize and expand my life, or does it shrink it?
Knowing what I stand for really helped me defend the positions that I had in my life when people were doubting me.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you as well. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So today, let's look at one of my favorite life hacks: learn important lessons before it's too late. Okay, let's kick it off with lesson #1. Take accountability with David Goggins.
It doesn't go from like one morning I'm this way, next morning I wake up and presto, 5 steps to greatness. No, it ain't that, brother. You read my book, this is hard work. It's every day, like right now. I had to be honest with you, man. I'm even shaking right now being on this show. I'm a big time introvert. How you address it is you face it. You face it every day. You face it every single day of your life. Where you say, okay, like if you're fat, you need to lose weight. It's patience. It's patience in this fact of accepting who you are right now. I'm fat. I don't like myself. Accepting the fact that if you lose 3 or 4 pounds, that's a huge accomplishment. You have to live in your own world. You cannot judge yourself. That's why social media and all these things are horrible. You can't judge yourself off of the so-called competition that we have made up in our mind. The things that how people look, how people act, how smart someone is. This is a race that you run completely alone. And you're all by yourself. I had tons of sticky notes all over my mirror. It wasn't like be better than John or be as fast as whoever. Okay, David, yesterday you did this. Today, our next goal for the week is this. So I had a year goal, weekly goals, daily goals, hourly goals, and the big goal was I lied a lot growing up. I wanted to be accepted. One goal was, let's go one day without lying. Let's go one day, and then when I would lie to somebody, I would say, hey man, now I had to go back now and apologize, say, hey man, I lied to you. You know how hard it is to go back to somebody and say, I lied to you? Hey man, you know what? Back there, I lied to you, dude. I was really jacked up. So I figured out these ways of total accountability. Like right now, I had to run this morning before I talked to you. Because why? That's what I'm about. I'm about mind, body, fitness. A lot of folks talk so much about, hey, I'm going to change your life. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Are you accountable for what you're doing? Are you accountable? And I mean to the T for what you're saying. I am. And that's where it started. It started with that total accountability of let's not lie today. Let's tell people the truth about who you are. And when you can get on and tell someone, like I'm doing right now, exactly how f***ed up you are, that's the goal in life. To put your life on a billboard, on the busiest road, in the busiest highway in the world and say, this is how f***ed up I used to be. Take it or leave it.
Lesson #2, make energizing decisions with Mel Robbins.
Any decision can be divided into what do I need to do versus how and when do I need to do it. For the what, that is intuition. And by intuition, I use the word energy. And the way to answer any question for yourself personally that you don't immediately know the answer to is to ask this question. Does it energize and expand my life, or does it shrink it? If it energizes and expands your life, the answer is hell yes. You should absolutely do it. That is what you should do. If the decision shrinks you or it deflates you, then the answer is hell no, you should not do it. This is an incredible tool to use in deal making, by the way, because I'm in the middle of negotiating a massive media deal at the moment, and it's something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And When you're negotiating for something you really want, whether it's somebody that you're dating or, you know, it's a salary or whatever, in my case, it's a massive media deal, you can get really ego-driven, right?
Right.
And you can start to get very attached to the deal or to the person or to the whatever. But you have to stop and ask yourself, is this deal or this person actually expanding and energizing me? Or are there aspects of it that deplete and shrink me? And if there's any aspect of it that depletes and shrinks, you either have to change that aspect of the deal or the relationship structure, or you have to say no. Period.
Right.
If you decide that, yeah, it energizes me and I really want to do it, then that's what you want. Next, you've got to think about the outcome, which is how and when you make it happen.
Lesson number 3, develop your communication skills with Jordan Peterson.
I'm incredibly nervous to talk in front of you because you've got to be one of the most formidable people that I've ever heard of or ever listened to or ever seen. So my question is, again, you're one of the best communicators that I've ever listened to. If I could be half as good at you or at communicating as you are, I would be set. How can I teach myself to do that?
Practice. You know, really, like, well, there's a couple of things. It helps to read a lot. It really helps to write. So if you want to make yourself articulate, which is a very good idea, then not only should you read, but you should write down what you think. And if you can do that a little bit every day, 15 minutes, maybe you could steal 15 minutes and do it every day. But if you do that for 10 years, you really straighten out your thinking. If you're going to speak effectively, you have to know way more than you're talking about, you know. So this is often difficult for beginning lecturers at university because they'll do a lecture on a topic, but they only know as much as they're saying in the lecture. And they get kind of stuck to their notes because of it. But you want to know 10 times as much as you are saying in the lecture, and then you can specify a stepping path through it and elaborate with the other things that you know. But to do that, you have to do a lot of reading. But you also have to do a lot of reading because that's where the synthesizing comes. So that's on the input side. And then on the output side, well, there's some techniques, let's say, is like if you're speaking in front of a group, you are not delivering a talk to a group. That's not what you're doing. The talk isn't a packaged thing that you present to a group. There isn't a group. There's a bunch of individuals, and you talk to them. So when I talk to a group, I always talk to people one at a time. And that makes it easier too, because you know how to talk to a person. It's like, can you talk to 1,000 people? Well, probably not, because it's too intimidating. But there isn't 1,000 people there. There's 1,000 individuals. And so you just look at an individual and you say something, and you can tell if they're engaged. They look confused, or they look interested, or they look angry, or they look bored, or maybe they're asleep, in which case you look at someone else. And they give you feedback about how you're doing. And so one thing is to have something to say, yeah, but the next thing is pay attention to who you're talking to. Because unless you're very badly socialized, and that seems unlikely in your case, because you present yourself at least moderately well, and well, I mean, I don't know you very well, but on first sight, you're doing fine. So the probability that if you pay attention to the individuals that you're talking to, that your natural wealth of social skill will manifest itself is extremely high. And so you don't deliver a talk to an audience. That's a really bad way of thinking about it. You're actually engaged in a conversation with an audience. Even if they're not talking, they're nodding and shifting position and looking like this, and you can pull all that in and use it to govern the level at which you're addressing the entire audience. So the last thing I would say is, well, having the aim to be a good communicator is a good start. And you think, well, I could buttress that to some degree. Well, there isn't anything that you can possibly, this is the whole point of a liberal education, there isn't anything that you can possibly do that makes you more competent in everything you do than to learn how to communicate. I don't care if you're going to be a carpenter. I mean, being a carpenter, by the way, is very difficult, especially if you're a good carpenter. But if you're good at communicating as a carpenter, you're like 10 times better as a carpenter. So, and this is something that the liberal arts colleges, I think, I don't know if they've forgotten it, but they don't do a very good job of marketing. It's like, well, what's the use of a bachelor's degree, a Bachelor of Arts? It's like, well, you can think, you can write, you can speak, you've read something. It's like, the economic value of that is incalculable. The people that I've watched in my life who've been spectacularly successful they have skills. Clearly, that's a minimum precondition. But they're also very, very good at articulating themselves. And so whenever they negotiate, they're successful. Well, that's kind of like the definition of success in life, right? You negotiate and you're successful. It doesn't mean you win. Because if you're a good negotiator, if you're a really good negotiator, everybody walks away from the negotiation thrilled. And so then people line up to do things with you. So, and that's all dependent on your ability to communicate. So, practice.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
What if I can become someone that no one thinks I can be? And just me talking about that, I have the hair going up on my arms.
You might want to get honest with yourself. Like, instead of doing this where I want to be a millionaire, I want to do this, do you really? Because you can make it happen. You actually can. Look at all the idiots that are making money. You can make money.
When I was selling copiers door to door, I had a very clear vision of what my life was going to be like.
Lesson number 4, experiment more with Jeff Bezos.
You cannot invent and pioneer if you cannot accept failure. To invent, you need to experiment. And if you know in advance that it's going to work, it is not an experiment. And so that's a very important thing. They are inseparable twins, failure and invention. And so you have to be willing to do that. And it's embarrassing to fail. It's always embarrassing to fail. But you have to say, no, that's not how this works. If I said to you, you have a 10% chance with a particular decision, a 10% chance of a 100x return, you should take that bet every time, but you're still going to be wrong 9 out of 10 times, and it's going to feel bad 9 out of 10 times. And with technology, the outcomes, the results can be very long-tailed. The payoff can be very asymmetric, which is why you should do so much experimentation. Everybody knows that if you swing for the fences, you hit more home runs, but you also strike out more. But with the baseball, that analogy doesn't go far enough, because with baseball, no matter how well you connect with the ball, you can only get 4 runs. The success is capped at 4 runs. But in business, every once in a while, you step up to the plate and you hit the ball so hard, you get 1,000 runs. And so when you have that kind of asymmetric payoff, and one at bat can get you 1,000 runs, it encourages you to experiment more. It's the right business decision to experiment more. It's also better for your customers. Customers like the successful experiments.
Lesson number 5, have self-awareness with me.
The self-awareness is super important. Knowing what I stand for really helped me defend the positions that I had in my life when people were doubting me. Knowing that I stand for belief, and knowing how that breaks down into passion, self-confidence, and conviction, and knowing really deeply, having an understanding of myself. When you truly know yourself, you have a lot more confidence. It's easier to say no to people. It's easy to dismiss other people's opinions of you because you have your own opinion of yourself. Where if you don't know what you stand for, if you don't really know who you are, you don't have that self-awareness, then anytime somebody says something about you, you take it in and say, maybe I'm like that. Oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe their opinions are right. Where I couldn't care less. You don't like the Blue Jays, you don't like what I'm wearing, you don't like my message. I feel like, you might be wrong, but it's not gonna impact my self-worth. It's not gonna impact my confidence and belief in myself. And so understanding at the core who I am, having that self-awareness, knowing what my one word is massively important and had a big change on my life.
And lesson number 6, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is Redefine Failure with Sarah Blakely.
Growing up, my father used to ask my brother and me what we had failed at the dinner table, which was so interesting, and he'd celebrate it, and he'd actually be disappointed if I didn't have something that I failed at that week. So I can remember saying, Dad, I tried out for this and I was horrible, and he would actually high-five me and say, congratulations, way to go. And what it did was just reframe my definition of failure. Failure for me became not trying versus the outcome. So many people don't take risks for fear of failure. They don't start the business, they don't go create the art they want to create, or they don't go try out to be in the play, or whatever it is, for the fear of failure. And once you redefine that for yourself and realize the failure is just not trying, then life opens up to you in many ways. And I would also, my dad would encourage me anytime something didn't go the way I expected it to, or maybe I got embarrassed by a situation, to write down where the hidden gifts were and what I got out of it. And I started realizing in everything there was some amazing nugget that I wouldn't have wanted to pass up.
Now I have a special bonus clip from Guru Gopal Das on how to choose the right kind of pain that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. What's the biggest failure you've had that you need to redefine? Number 2. What small experiment can you start this week? And number 3, what's an energizing decision that you can take before the end of today? And if you promise to take action after watching this video, give me a #believe in the comments to make it official.
Have any of you tried doing exercise, like a gym workout or jogging, and have realized that physical activity is painful? Have any of you as school or college students worked hard to get good grades and have realized that studying hard is painful? Ladies and gentlemen, pain is such an integral part of life that try as hard as we may, we just cannot escape. But we have a choice to accept the right kind of pain that initially hurts, but eventually heals. That initially is uncomfortable, but eventually unleashes our true potential. That initially we want to avoid, but eventually very happily accept. Or the wrong kind of pain, where the beginning is so much pleasure, but at the end, life is just a pity. Where in the beginning you're so mesmerized, but at the end, just a royal mess. Where in the beginning things are so comfortable, but at the end, endlessly complex. The pain of exercise or the pain of disease. Which one will you choose?
If you want to know the 10 morning rituals for success that you have to try, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Do you have a morning ritual?
My morning routine.
So when I wake up in the morning,